Hello, Magnify friends. This is your reminder that we are getting together and we would love to have you with us for Lift Up Your Heart, a Magnify gathering. This is a delightful, low-pressure day away with other women of faith, and Sharon Eubank is our keynote speaker. The date to circle on your calendar is October 25th at Mountain America Expo Center in Sandy. Get all the details at magnifythegood.com. We cannot wait to see you.
Hello, Magnify friends. I'm Brooke Walker, and I'm so excited for this conversation with Sharon Eubank, Director of Humanitarian Services for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Sharon is here in part to celebrate the small actions and simple offerings of ordinary women like each of us in the Magnify community. She has a fresh way to define character, a new way to look at charity, and on-the-ground proof that we don't have to write a huge check or trek across the globe to make a difference. Sharon leaves everyone she meets feeling more loved and empowered to do their own bit of good in the world, and we are just thrilled to spend a few minutes with her in studio today. I'll also add a new resume line. Sharon is the author of the new book, Doing Small Things with Great Love by Deseret Book. Sharon Eubank, welcome to Magnify, my friend.
Thank you so much, Brooke. I'm happy to be here.
I am thrilled to have you. You see my copy of your book, Your Labor of Love, in my hands. I always hope authors take it as a compliment that it's a bit marked up, dog-eared, highlighted. I loved it, sister. I loved it.
Thank you.
You say in the book, and I'm just going to jump right into my favorite line, you say in the book that humanitarian work is equal parts art and science. I love that, first of all, because it speaks to you. You bring head, you bring heart to this work. But as I think of the women listening, equal part arts and science, can you give us, just right out of the gate, Sharon, one way we can get better at the science of serving and helping others, and maybe one way we can get better at the art of it too?
Nobody has ever asked me that question before, and it's a very good question because, there are certain things that are very science-oriented. You need the data, you need the numbers, and we're going to make decisions based on what makes sense logically.
Right.
And certainly that's a part of humanitarian services. I think if we could improve in one way about the science, it would be to go back after we've done the intervention and figure out what was the lasting impact. We did something, 4 months ago or 2 years ago, but what's the lasting impact on that? When we used to work on water projects in humanitarian services, our gold standard for a successful project was if we went back 2 years later, turn on the tap, water comes out of it. That's the first thing. Second thing is it's potable water. You can actually drink it. And third thing, that community has made a repair. If those things were in place, then that was an assessment that community will keep that water going. So that was that assessment, that evaluation afterward, I think is sometimes what's missing in some of the work that we do.
And I hear you say, give it some time. I might do something to my neighbor down the street, and maybe I won't hear about it for a year just to take it down to my level in my world. But to give it some time and look back and then ask yourself, did that matter?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the questions I have about, stuff we're doing around here, food bank usage is going up. And so we're magnifying our efforts. We're collecting more food. We're creating more energy around food banks. But I have a question, a root cause question. Why is food bank usage going up? And is there anything we could do to tackle the primary reason and not just focus on gathering more food, but figuring out the reasons? Why are more families using food banks? And is there anything to do there? So that kind of assessment and evaluation is part of the science that I think is really helpful.
How can we be more artful? Bring an art to and in that I mean love, right? Bring a loving touch, I guess, to the work that we do and the service that we offer.
I was coming out of an event yesterday and my brother Kevin was with me. And so he goes, "It was so smart of you to put this heart on the cover of the book." And I said, that was the designer. We didn't do that. He said, but it taught me it's not about the hygiene kit or the quilt or the thing that you're doing. It's about heart to heart. When somebody feels connected to you, when you build a friendship out of it, when somebody feels heard or seen, that's the real project. And he was giving me, credit for something I didn't even really do. But that heart of it, that it isn't about the things, it's about the people, that's the art.
You touch on the universal value known as the golden rule in the book. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So basically treat others the way you would like to be treated. And I love this. You listed out a handful of interpretations of the golden rule as embraced by other cultures, other countries, other time periods. Can I share a few? Let's see if I can get to my right page here. From the 19th century, here's an interpretation. Blessed is who prefers his brother to himself. Here's one from Hinduism. This is the sum of duty. Do not unto others that which would cause you pain if done unto you. Here's another. Treat your inferiors as you would be treated by your betters. I love that. And then we'll end on this one. I am a stranger to no one, and no one is a stranger to me. Indeed, I am a friend to all. We all know the golden rule, but you also penned a challenge in the form of a question. What is your own personal golden rule? And I've been thinking about that, right? We can interpret that one sentence in a myriad of different ways. How would you answer that, Sharon Eubank, with your experience and all you've seen and all you know in your work as a humanitarian? How would you answer that question? What is your golden rule?
That's a very good question. I'm putting myself on the spot now. When I look at this from a gospel context, and I think the Magnify community can relate to this, everything really boils down to two philosophies. And that first philosophy comes out of the Book of Mormon, and this is Korihor. You prosper according to the management of the creature. You take care of yourself. You figure out what you need, and you with the collateral damage, sorry. That's in the end, that was really Lucifer. The other side of that comes out of the Doctrine and Covenants, where Jesus Christ tells Joseph Smith, Zion is every man or every person seeking the interest of their neighbor. And so to me, the dueling philosophies there, and obviously as Latter-day Saints, we really seek to create Zion and seek the interest of our neighbors and the people around me. That's why the golden rule resonated so much to me. It shows up in every culture, every time period.
It's universal.
And it's that echo of that Zion philosophy from the very beginning of the earth.
Yeah.
We need to seek the interest of our neighbor. When Cain and Abel, when Abel is dead and he said, where's your brother? And he's like, am I my brother's keeper? We are. The true philosophy of that is we are our brothers and sisters' keeper. We're all related in that way. And the golden rule kind of allows us to talk about something we have in common across all cultures and all faiths.
I've heard you reference like a mother's love and how much we love our own children. And if we could love other people's children the way we love our own, that resonated with me. That's another interpretation of this rule, right? As it would be.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone was saying, what do all people have in common? And I think there are other things, but we love our kids. Yeah. We'll sacrifice. We'll do anything for those kids. And the question we were talking about was, can you extend that circle around to other people's kids? Can you care enough about their futures the way you feel about your own?
The book captures your personal reflections and beliefs on how we treat and help each other. And one question you ask, and you progressively do answer it through the book, but this grabbed my attention. The question is, why isn't it as intuitive as we first believe? When we set out to help each other, why isn't it as intuitive as we first believe? And that one caught me because here we are as children of God, we're brothers and sisters, right? Sharing in this mortal experience. And you're proposing that helping each other doesn't always come naturally. Why is that, do you think?
I think, first of all, we're thinking about, we're human beings, and our brain is constantly calculating what benefit will I get out of that.
What's in it for me?
Yeah, what's in it for me? That's just our normal evolutionary brain that's going on. We have to overcome that with our higher tendencies.
It's our factory setting, and we have to work beyond it.
And we all work that.
Yeah.
And we all know that. With my brain, when I watch somebody walk across the street, it is feeding me information about what I think, and is that person a threat to me? And, what comparing all of those things, everybody nods and says yes. But once we get to the higher thinking and beyond that, we want to do something good, and our heart is responding, and sometimes we assume what is that person needs. I'm going to intuit. My brain is receiving all this information. I'm going to make a decision about what I think you need without ever asking you, is this what you need? Have you tried this before? What happened last time? And when I make an assumption and then I go forward, that's when mistakes get made. We have selected the wrong thing or the wrong time because we never respected that person enough to ask them what they want. And if I could give anybody who cares about, helping other people, the very first thing is sit down with the people you're trying to help and ask a lot of questions. Let them tell you what they need. Don't assume or put forward your own ideas because you will inevitably be wrong.
I love that. And in that is that patience, right? And that thoughtful intention. It takes time to ask questions. It takes time to listen and respond accordingly.
I have to tell you, my gold standard for asking questions is if somebody will ask a follow-up question. And I used to use this in dating too. Here's my gold standard. Will you ask me a question and then will you ask me a follow-up question?
Were you really listening? And do you really want to know what's underneath that?
That's true. But I think that's true in all human relations. That shows me you're listening to me and you're trying to build on the information you just got from me.
It's a connection.
It's a connection.
It's
and that's part of the art of humanitarian work.
Is connecting. You write, this is a fairly long quote, but sit with me here. You write in the book that in the end, you yourself are the gift. It isn't the clothes, the hygiene kits, the school desks, or the wells. It's you. It's the connection, there's that word again, and the relationships that you make. You go on to say, I envision each person as a well-stocked humanitarian organization, but instead of giving out tangible goods in foreign locations, we dispense as our humanitarian offerings the richness of healing, friendship, respect, peaceful dialogue, sincere interest, protective care for children, birthday remembrances, and taking care of the stranger right where we live. I found myself thinking then, does the stuff sometimes hang us up, Sharon? Like throughout the book, I feel like you're trying to gently point us to humanitarian work being less about tangible product and more about intangible time. Is that fair?
I think it's fair to say that. There's certainly people need goods.
Of course.
And a redistribution of goods is part of humanitarian work. But I cannot quit thinking that Jesus Christ came to the earth and he has his gospel to disseminate, and he's got to teach people about, moving from selfish to the higher law. And he doesn't have a fund. He doesn't have money. He's not doing projects. He's not sending apostles out to dig wells. And he didn't go anywhere either. He walked 122 miles. From Dan to Beersheba is 122 miles, and he just kind of walked up and down. So what was he doing? He was listening to people. He was asking questions. He was healing people. He was teaching his gospel of caring for other people. And he didn't give out stuff. And although things are important, there's something about that I'm trying to say in the book. It's more than just the things that we're giving. It's the human connection and the relationship. I've told this story before. I have a friend when I was working in the Middle East, and he said, in a kind way, you Americans, you use relationships to get your projects done. He said, in the Middle East, we use projects to build our relationships. And there's something about that flip that was really impactful to me. I want to use my relationships. I want to use the things that I'm doing to build up my relationships. That's the primary thing.
Well, in fact, you write, I feel it's important to carefully acknowledge that true help is an exchange. It might not be an even exchange, but everyone benefits. However you determine to help another person, it's crucial to recognize that the relationship is equal, even if the circumstances may not be. What would be your advice to women then to rise to that higher way of thinking, or as your Middle Eastern brothers shared, the best way to see people as peers and not projects?
I tell this story in the book. It was told to me by the woman that it happened to. So she was actually a missionary for the church, and she'd been assigned to go to India. And when they arrived in India, they were just overcome with how different it was. They were a couple from Idaho.
Yeah.
And the smells were just, she said, I had to stop myself from reacting to the smells. And it was so sad to me. People lived in such small locations and dirt floors and very crowded and hot and dank. She said, I just kept writing home saying, these people have nothing. She kept saying, these people have nothing. And I felt so sorry for them and so guilty about my life in the West. And she's at church, and it's like 3 months into her mission. And one of the sisters called her over and she said, we feel so sorry for you. Is there anything we can do to help you? And she's like, you feel sorry for me? She says, yeah. She said, why do you feel sorry for me? She said, I saw those pictures that you showed of your house, and it's so empty. You don't have your parents or your children living with you, and it must be so lonely for you. And I don't mean to offend you, but you look so hot and miserable. You're overweight, and you're wearing those restrictive clothes.
Oh dear. Here it
comes. I know. She's like, but she said, we would like to invite you over. Will you come over and cook with us? We'll be your Indian family. Yeah. And it was so interesting to hear her tell that story and recognize I'm feeling sorry for them. They're feeling sorry for me.
Yeah.
We both have riches. We both have poverties, and it's an exchange. And the part I wrote in the book was, I don't ever want to say to somebody, they have nothing, because that devalues everything that they do have. And the richness is when I have things and you have things, and we fill in each other's gaps. We do an exchange that. And I thought that was a good story.
I remember as I was probably 20, and I found myself for the first time bubble popping experience, right? Girl from Utah finding herself in an orphanage in China. And I remember, seeing these babies with the crusty noses and the drool bibs, and they were sick and they were crying and they were sad. And I remember feeling nervous, right? We've all been in a situation, I think, that has stretched us. And I remember just saying a little prayer like, I hope what I've what I've tried to be and tried to learn shows up here, and feeling a little relieved when I was able to cuddle that crusty-nosed baby tight into my neck and just feel this true love and connection for these children. And I went home that night feeling reflective on, again, this isn't about how I responded per se, but just I think in the right moment, if we've done the right work, it shows up in the right way, right? And we're able to see those people eye to eye, human heart to human heart. And you see that all over the world, all the time.
I started out like most people in my career, just feeling like I have all these things, all this experience, all this expertise.
Yeah.
I have things to give, and I want to give those things. But then I kind of wanted to walk away and not get involved in the messiness of it.
Can I do it from over here?
Yeah. Because it's clean and, we're busy and we have a lot of other things going on. But as you move along the spectrum in your humanitarian work, you get to this point where you're talking about is they have something to give me that I need just as badly as the thing that we're doing. And that exchange, the heart of it, the things that we exchange with each other, that's the power of what we're trying to do. That's what bonds us. That's what creates a friend that you will contact 20 years later. You'll die with that name on your lip because you're just so happy about that. And there's a spectrum that people walk on, and you have to respect the journey. You learn things as you go along.
And in terms of simple service, there's a wonderful list on the Church Humanitarian website that shares 25 ways to participate in the Global Initiative for Women and Children. And we can link it in our show notes. But one of the things on the list I saw was dance, jump, climb, and play on the floor with a child. That's simple. That's easy. I can do that. I can do that today. When we think of helping with a global effort, we don't imagine something as simple as playing with a child could make a difference. But I see you smiling and nodding, and you believe it can.
I really believe that simple things like that make an enormous difference. A lot of what we do or are is because of the foundation our parents gave us. And in the environment that we live right now, if I'm an African woman, I've strapped my baby to my back while I go out and work in the field. And that baby sees the back of the print dress all day long. And they don't get enough stimulation from a human face. That's one of the things that we would work on in an African setting. We have the similar problem right here in the United States, right here in Utah, because you're not working in a field and your baby's not strapped on your back, but your phone is between you and that baby all the time. And that baby doesn't get to see your expressions and everything. If you get down on the floor and you just spend 15, 20 minutes interacting with that baby, the dividends for that baby's development are enormous. And so, the reasons are different, but the situation is the same.
It translates. For the sister listening then who says, I want more of this in my life to give and to receive. I want more of this connection, this service, this love that has been discussed and celebrated here today and also in your beautiful book. Where should she start? What's a jump start for her?
I'll give you a kind of a list of some things out of the book because I published 50 things. I think people just need a spark of, I can do that.
There's something to that, right?
Yeah.
It's that momentum that takes over when goodness is happening or goodness is being sought after.
I would encourage people. We all have our circles, our families, our ward members, our friends, the people that we interact with all the time. But if you could choose, find somebody that you're interested in that you don't know and interact with them.
Okay.
Just reach out and do something. And if you don't know where to start, I'd go to your elementary school or your junior high. I'd sit down with the principal and say, what's going on in the school? This is my district. I have kids who go here. Tell me what's going on and what you need. That conversation, you'll walk out of there with 15 things to do. And if you don't go to the school, go over to your town council or your mayor and say, we just had our primary elections, and tell me what's going on and what can a citizen do to help. And you'll find something that sparks you.
This is the work, right? And you use a word. I've picked up on a buzzword of yours. I don't know if it's like a in-the-moment buzzword or maybe a life-lasting buzzword. You say galvanized a lot. How can we become more galvanized or more enthused and passionate about all of the work you just described? Because it's out there. It's right there ready for us to grab hold of and invest in.
I get galvanized when I see what other people are doing and I think, that's a really good idea. I could do that, but I would change it in this way.
Yeah.
So I think for the Magnify community, this is the great blessing of gathering at the conference or, reading things online or listening to the program. We galvanize each other. And when we share each other's examples, we might change it. We might do something differently. We might react in a different way, but that's what sparks my own creativity. This is what I'm going to do. So I hope that there's more of that. I hope people send in or post or write down, this is what I've learned. This is what's important to me. And then as a community, we can do more.
You have a somewhat poetic definition of character, which I think is a word we often use pretty casually otherwise. You write, my own definition of character is the daily seed of energy an individual expends to grow productively in a good direction. So, Sharon, as you consider all of the needs and all of the service opportunities, and you see more than most, how then do we decide where to plant our energy? Is that a Holy Ghost guide sort of a situation?
Oh, we're all trying to find that balance.
Yeah.
That balance is very tricky to find. I tell this story. I worked for a guy named Lloyd Pendleton. He was my boss. And he was a type A personality, could not rest on a beach. And his family was like, please, can you stop working? We're in Hawaii.
Please read a book.
He was just so type A.
Yeah.
And he retired and he went to work for the governor. And he was just, he got so many things done and he taught me so many things. He got pancreatic cancer. And so I drove down to his house to kind of say goodbye. And as I knocked on the door, his wife let me in and he greets me and he goes, Sharon, tell me what you know about multiply and replenish the earth. I'm like, hi, Lloyd.
Nice to see you too.
But, this is just him. He taught me so many things. And he had met with a legal pad. He had written some things down on it. And he said, you're like me in a lot of ways. We're go kind of people. And he said, now that I'm dying, I look back on my life with some regret, and I want to share this with you. He said, we think multiply and replenish is about having children. He said, okay, Genesis, it is. But it's also about how we multiply our energy and then we replenish and let it come back. We rest, we reflect, we celebrate on what happened. He said, I didn't do that in my life. I didn't do it enough. He said, if I could tell anybody the secret is multiply and then replenish. It's a commandment. Because I feel so guilty.
Yeah.
I shouldn't take time for myself. I shouldn't. But he said, that's the only way. I mean, even in the creation, God rested on the seventh day and looked around and said, this is good. He said, we need to do that as human beings so that you can find the balance of that energy. And the ways that you decide to do that, that's your character.
That's your character.
That's your character.
Oh, I love that. You write that over the years, the word charity has lost its original shine. And I've been dwelling on that reflection. You say we talk about charity cases or not accepting charity with an arched eyebrow. But the Apostle Paul wrote that charity suffers long and is kind. It doesn't envy others or puff itself up. It doesn't seek for its own attention. It's not easily provoked. Charity doesn't rejoice in other people's troubles, but rejoices in what is true. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. If we stand on that truth, Sharon, pulled from the pages of Moroni, right? And pull on that Sunday school definition that charity is the pure love of Christ, what did Jesus Christ teach us about being a humanitarian?
I have an experience where a close friend of mine passed away. She was 38 years old and she died of, non-smoking lung cancer. She leaves a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. It was so, so hard. And I remember grieving through all of that. And, nothing can fix it. She's gone. The kids are going to have the damage that they have. It's so hard when you go through a death. And people that are listening, you know what I'm talking about. And the only thing that made me get through that experience was the sense that Jesus was sitting right next to me. He wasn't changing the situation, but he was just holding my hand. He was just being with me in the sense of it. And in a lot of ways, that has come to define my definition or my sense of charity, that it never fails. He's never going to leave me. I'm never going to leave you. I may not be able to change all the situations in this lifetime, but I'm going to be with you. I'm going to love you. I'm going to do whatever I can to help you. And I think for me, that's the personal definition of charity. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here. I care about you, and I'm not going to leave you. And as a Relief Society motto, that feels really great to me as we gather on Sunday, but the rest of the week, we're trying to say that to each other. I'm your sister. I'm not going anywhere. I'll always be here for you. I may not understand everything that's happened to you, but I'm not going anywhere. And that kind of charity never faileth is at the very heart of what it means to be a humanitarian or a disciple of Jesus Christ. They're the same thing.
I love that, Sharon. Thank you so much for your time and your light and your experiences. We appreciate it. Your testimony, too. The book is called Doing Small Things with Great Love by Sharon Eubank, and you can get your copy at Deseret Book. Mark your calendar for a gathering of women this fall that you don't want to miss. It will be that good. Sharon Eubank will be our keynote speaker at Lift Up Your Heart, a Magnify event. It's a chance to hear from Sharon in person, up close, as powerful as ever, with her incredible insight that we all love and long for. So bring all the women you know, sisters, mothers, daughters, friends, and spend a meaningful Girls' Day at Lift Up Your Heart. You will leave feeling restored, refilled, and recentered on Jesus Christ. The date is Saturday, October 25th at the Mountain America Expo Center in Sandy, Utah. Women 16 and older are invited. We'll send you to magnifythegood.com for all of the details, and you can register there as well, magnifythegood.com. We can't wait to see you.